Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, October the 23rd, presented by Mercury. We're going to head on up to Guntersville and catch up with Tom Ott, and I'll whine a little bit about my Snag Proof Open performance. We're going to talk to Lee Pitts as he's practicing for the Alabama Bass Trail Championship after guiding on Weiss and Neely Henry this week. And we're going to connect with Josh Herron to talk about Logan Martin and the Logan Lay. Be right back, and we'll hear what the guys have to say. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, October the 23rd, presented by Mercury. We're going to head up to Guntersville with Tom Ott. Tom, I spent some time on Guntersville this last week fishing the Snag Proof Open, and I was a victim of my own inexpertise, I guess you call it. 3 blow-ups, didn't put them in the boat, but that's frog fishing. Tell us what's going on in the big lake and how people can put a few fish in the boat in a normal way.
Well, I tell you, Dano, that's kind of like shooting a BB in a boxcar right there. I mean, there's a lot of grass, and it's definitely a time on the water kind of deal. You got to know where those fish are. But right now, it's A-rig is king and a square bill. If you want to put some fish in the boat, grab you an A-rig and put you some small grubs, small swim baits. And when I say small, I mean, match the hatch, maybe 2.5, 3 inches. You can go out there and just absolutely wreck these fish. I mean, you're going to catch anywhere between 15 to 50 a day probably and have some serious doubles. Size is still an issue because you're going to get, you're going to run into that size deal. But what I've been seeing is typically the first fish that, you get a good bite and then as they just get smaller. And then that's time to put the trolling motor down and move up to another point. But I'm just fishing grass, staying on the flat still, working the edges where the bait's congregated. I mean, they're coming into that deep water. We're getting some cooler nights, really starting to make these fish get active. Square bill has been a king for the last couple of weeks for me, but the A-rig is, it's kind of hard to put down once you start catching doubles on it. I'm telling you.
Are you finding yourself running into, if you're fishing points, you got to be running into just about everything? Are the stripers reacting to that A-rig a little bit?
Absolutely. And we throw Jennifer and I throw a lot of single swim baits as well. We'll see fish on the graph and start picking up some big crappie, and when I say big crappie, I mean in the 2-pound class on that single swim bait. And they'll hit an A-rig as well. I think they're more into the single swim bait, but yeah, stripe or hidden, we're seeing, I've even caught some big catfish on that A-rig. So there's a plethora of them out there, but if you're around those kind of fish, at least you're around the bait, and that's probably the most critical thing right now.
Yeah, well, I would suggest keep moving, look for current eddies, throw the square bills, throw the A-rigs. You might even be able to catch them on a spinner bait or a swim bait as well. But Tom, man, as always, thank you, and we will talk to you again next week.
All right, Dano. Y'all be safe out there and tight lines, guys.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, October the 23rd, presented by Mercury. It's time for us to head on down to the Logan Martin and Lay Lake area of our country with Josh Herron. Josh, tell us what's going on down there on that neck of the woods.
Man, water temps are finally getting down. We're fishing's fixing to kind of get halfway decent coming into the fall. It's kind of the same gig. You need to be looking for migrating bait fish. Natural creeks, spinnerbaits, topwaters, vixens, spooks, shower blows. I mean, mornings can be really good right now, and basically you just kind of need to put the trolling motor on about halfway and cover some ground.
So when you're talking natural creeks, give me a few specific type areas that so people can reference it. Are you talking beeswax? Are you talking some of those areas? What kind of lakes?
Like on beeswax, Lay Lake, you got beeswax. A lot of people consider beeswax like a pocket. They don't understand that beeswax actually has 2 big natural creeks that run into the back of it. So, like in the summertime, those big stripers will actually migrate to the back of those creeks, kind of with a shad, and they come back out, and then fish go back in them in the fall. That's why you saw the classic one behind the bridge. That's kind of where those fish stage up and push bait back in the winter times. Logan Martin, you've got places like Broken Arrow, Chocolate, Clear Creek. Those are all actual natural creeks where these fish have traditional migration paths in the fall. So it's not necessarily a pocket thing or anything like that. You're actually chasing natural migrations of fish, no different than when you're deer hunting. They pick a route and go certain times of year, and then they go other directions, other parts. So this just happens to be one of their natural migration routes.
So is it a current thing right now, or is it just whatever the bait fish happens to be doing? That's what people want to focus on.
No, it's a moon thing, it's a daylight hours thing, and it's a bait fish thing. This lower or shorter time or shorter daylight hours, colder nights, it's this natural dinner bell for fish that they need to pack on some weight going into the colder months of the year. They're fixing to lose the crawfish once the surface temp gets below 50. So I mean that's kind of what I mean. It's no different than if me and you knew that we weren't going to eat for 2 days. By God, we're going to eat some stuff going into it.
Well, there you have it, folks. Cover some water, throw some spinnerbaits, square bills, bladed jigs, have a topwater bait. Well, good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, October the 23rd, presented by Mercury. Speaking of Mercury, we got Lee Pitts getting ready for the Alabama Bass Trail Championship up there on Smith Lake. But I know he spent some time guiding on Weiss Lake this week. Tell us what's going on at Weiss and Neely Henry.
You know, this is kind of what we've been looking for. We've had some cool nights and, had a little bit of wind last weekend, and it's got that water temperature down a little bit. And believe it or not, just the little bit of temperature that's dropped, you can tell it. Our crappie bite is really picking up. We can swap over now instead of dropping live bait right down to them. I'm putting on some of those Moglo heads and dropping them down a double 16ths and putting those Bobby Garland baits on it. And they're getting away from the wood. They're still right there on the wood, but they're spreading out a little bit where you can kind of catch them with different baits right now, getting around some of that cover.
I know we talked last week. The bass bite was starting to kind of move a little bit. Did that cold snap help anything up at Weiss?
Yeah, it did. We had a tournament last weekend, and I think 17 pounds won. There were several 14, 15 pounds, so that shows that they're catching some size. I think there was a 6.5, the one big fish. So, and most of those fish were caught like we've been talking about. Your smaller spinnerbaits. You can still throw that 3/8, but with the smaller blades on it, square bill. I know a lot of the guys, they got up on some of this wood cover and knocking that square bill around a little bit on some of the ends of the docks, any kind of brush you could find, things like that. So the bass bite is turning on. Also getting a good topwater bite right now. Some of the better fish, even on the main lake, we pull the water down a little over 2.5 feet. So some of those hard bottoms and gravel bottoms are, they've got 3 feet on them now. So the spots are starting to kind of pile up on them. It's getting there. I mean, the bite's really picking up. We just need the bigger fish to start feeding too. And I think that as we go on, it's just going to keep getting better.
I know that the crappie bite on Neely is a little bit of a dock shooting thing right now. That's basically what's going on. But what about the bass bite? What are you hearing out of Neely Henry?
There's some guys that they're saying the same thing. They're getting where fishing these stumps, some of these hard bottoms got a little gravel in it or a hard clay bottom, starting to pick up some fish, throwing a spook. Some guys are throwing a 1/4 ounce buzz bait and getting a bite, not only early in the morning, but it's continuing that midday, 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. They're getting some fish coming up busting. So everything's just kind of coming alive right now. The water temperature is cooling down. These daylight hours are getting a little shorter, so these fish are feeding up. I think the moon, this week has kind of had some of the fish feeding at night a little bit too. So, we had that big moon. The cooler it gets, the better it gets.
Well, have fun up there. Go win yourself a boat, and we'll talk to you soon. Well, that'll do it for our Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, October the 23rd, presented by Mercury. Hey, don't forget our Fish for Jamie event, November the 6th at Coosa Landing, right there on Neely Henry, as we all come together to remember our friend and brother, Jamie Collette, and we do a little bit to raise some funds for his kids as they go through life. We hope you all will participate and join us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our social media channel so you'll be updated every time we go live or that we put a new post out. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, check them out. And if you need anything, contact us here at Bucks Island. We'll help you with whatever parts, service, sales, or the Loft Tackle Store to get you putting a few more fish in the boat. Thanks for spending the time with us, and we will talk to you again next week.